Walibora, such a great pleasure to meet you, and thank you for joining us on our book review. Today we're looking at your book, The American Dream. What is the American Dream? What is this book about?
Well, let me begin by expressing my gratitude for being on this show. The story is about the illusion of completeness that supposedly comes from wanting to move out of your place of birth. And it's this illusion is one that is pervasive, it's ubiquitous. It doesn't just plague the Kenyans alone. There are many people in Tanzania, in Uganda, all over Africa, who think that home is not good enough, that the ultimate desire is to be in America. So what I do in this particular story is to problematize this illusion that everything good, everything that is paradise-like is to be found in America. And my characters are two young boys in their early teenage who decide that home is not good enough, and therefore they make rather simplistic plans to actualize their desire to go to America. Now, by the way, there's nothing wrong with dreaming. In fact, if we don't dream, we'd rather die. People have accomplished a lot because they dreamt. So we have to have dreams. And however, when dreams become unrealistic and unachievable, it just goes to show that we're not setting very realistic goals. And that's what I try to problematize in the story. To cut a long story short, Issa Yano, who is the narrator of the story, and his friend Madoa don't get to realize the American dream. They end up being arrested in Nairobi because Madoa, Issa's friend, is a friend to robbers, and they get caught in a robbery in Nairobi, and they end up in prison. So the dream turns out to be shattered. You know, the illusion is shattered.
It is a perception that has been there for a very long time, clearly, that everybody thinks, or most people will think, the grass is greener on the other side. But through this book, you seek to break that notion.
Absolutely, absolutely. You put it rightly. You know that you know the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, and this is a problem that I realized at the time I was writing the book, nearly 15 years ago, if my calculations are right. But you realize that in the long run, this dream, this illusion doesn't seem to be seen, to be what it is. People still, up to now, believe that America is a place you should go. And I came to that realization long before I went to America myself. You know, I realized that there's a problem. People think they should go away from home. I had not left this country yet. And then later on I went to America. I stayed in America for 10 years and in fact realized it's much worse than I had thought.
And there are those who would argue that there are those who have gone to America and actually succeeded in whatever it is they were doing, that they actually found that dream they were pursuing, whilst, yes, there are those who does not materialize for them. But for some, they'd argue things worked out.
Right, and I like that you bring up this idea. In fact, the very idea of the American dream, which is purely American, has nothing to do with the American dream of my story.
Yes.
The American dream that is American is about you owning a house and having a good job and so on and so forth. The belief that you can be what you want to be. Yeah, you can become what you want to become. So the question of being and becoming is crucial in that. But for this particular story, now if we put it into context, it's about moving to America. That's the big thing. So everything else falls in place for as long as you move to America. And these are kids who have these simplistic dreams, but which dreams are a reflection, and a refraction of the general populace, particularly in the third world countries, where poverty has made people loathe themselves, loathe their culture, loathe their language, so that they want anything else but theirs.
It's a very short book. It's easy to read, it's a big font, and one would think it's a simple book, but it's not. It has actually been theorized by some very learned individuals.
Simple book. And you know, the blurb on the English translation, this is meant to be read by kids. But you know, my thinking is that perhaps that blurb doesn't give the whole story. The person I had in mind when I was writing this particular book is the young, and the young at heart. And the young at heart is not determined by the years that somebody has been on the surface of the earth. Yeah. Right. So what has surprised me to a certain extent is the level to which very serious literary and cultural scholars have been able to analyze this book. And I might perhaps notably mention Professor Evan Mwangi of Northwestern University and Professor Ndirangu Achanga of Wisconsin University, Whitewater. They have theorized in very complex ways about the significance of this particular story. Wachanga, for example, argues that this is a book that had prophetic significance, because we have characters in the book who are Kenyan and who dream about becoming American president. So you have Issa imagining that he will become the American president, and I'm writing this in 2001. Then in 2008, a president with the Kenyan roots becomes, you know, in charge of White House, Barack Obama. So he kind of theorizes about this kind of prophetic vision that the book has.
So how many books have you written so far, and over a span of how long would you say?
Sometimes I really can't keep count of the books I've written, but I can well say there are over 40 different books, not to mention the academic papers in journals, as well as chapters in academic books. Yeah. Right.
As you say, you've written so many books over so many years. Everybody knows you. You've been around for quite a long time. What would you say keeps you writing? What motivates you? What keeps you going?
Well, I was at the book fair not too long ago, and I had this expression from another writer, which I may quote or paraphrase. He said, "Writers write because they write." Yes. And I think I can say the same of myself. I write because I write. I write because that's perhaps the only thing you can do. Yeah. Right. So it's some kind of obsession. I would have used the word addiction, but it has negative connotations. Yeah. But you know, people who can't help but write can always be like people who can't stop themselves from smoking because they have an addiction. So I have an addiction for writing, in a sense.
And there have been a lot of criticism on Kenyans and Africans that if you want to hide something from an African Kenyan, put it in a book that we do not read. What has been your experience as you've written all these books? Do Kenyans pick up books to read?
Well, some things about the Kenyan readership are not particularly correct. I beg to differ with those who say that Kenyans don't write. I also beg to differ with those who say that Kenyans do not write. You know, I have in mind Taban Lodiong, who talked about the Kenyan barrenness in terms of literary creativity. Kenyans do read, and Kenyans do write. If they didn't do those things, then the book industry would be dead. The book industry would be as good as dead. But I have observed over the years a blossoming publishing industry in this country, perhaps exceptional and exemplary in the region. It's nothing compared to what you see in Uganda or Tanzania or Rwanda. If they look up to the Kenyan publishing industry, it's booming. Why does it boom? Because people write.
And you've written about the American dream, but I guess the question is, what about the Kenyan dream? What is the Kenyan dream?
And it's a good question. Why not? I would ask the same. Yeah. Now, you see, during the launch of my book, The American Dream, which is a translation of My Ndoto America, I did make a promise to those who were attending. Yeah. I did say that I have written about Ndoto ya America, the American dream. But it behooves me to write the Kenyan dream. Yes. Perhaps even more importantly, to also write about the Kenyan nightmare and subsequently the American nightmare. Okay. Because it has not always been a dream, it has not always been a dream, it has been nightmarish sometimes. And you think about Westgate and you wonder, you think about the abject poverty in this country, the endemic corruption. You're talking about things that are not any near dreaming.
And as I mentioned, you've been around for a very long time, and somebody who's watched your career over the years, and they're thinking, how do I get there? What would be your words of advice and caution for the up-and-coming authors?
Well, I know there are many people who would want to write, and then they don't write. They only want to write. So my advice is, please, in Swahili they say, kama mjenzi, jenga. So if you really want to write, take the plunge. You can never ever know how to swim unless you take the plunge. But there are obstacles along the way. Don't expect that things will be easy. For one thing, publishers are not keen to publish unknown names. As I can testify from my own experience, it's not easy for you to break that ice. But once you do, things become easy. Then other problems follow, such as piracy, which for me, I think is more daunting right now at this age and stage than it was perhaps 20, 40 years ago. Because of the advance in technology, pirates reproduce the book almost as if it is the original book. And for those of us who have books that are read widely, particularly the ones that are read in schools, face this problem where you get less than half what you anticipated to get because of this plague of piracy. Yeah, this is one of the problems that is there. You have to understand, that this will be there. The other problem that one may have to face is I think readers don't just read. Readers may even overread. But what is more, they misread. So you have to confront that as well. Give you an example. People who read my works misread my works as autobiography. And I don't know why. So you have to contend with the misconceptions and the misreading that goes along with.
Thank you very much, Ken Walibora. It has been a great pleasure meeting you and talking to you about your book, The American Dream.
It's a pleasure to me too, Sophia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.